My name is Marin Ellis, and I was 31 the year I learned what a title company conference room can do to a family. My grandmother turned 81 on a Tuesday in September. She'd spend the whole morning making her cider donuts from scratch, the recipe she'd guarded since 1968, dusted with cinnamon sugar and set on her grandmother's cake stand. She'd set out cider mugs for 6. Nobody came. My father had a closing dinner for a client. My mother sent a photo of a spa robe with the caption "Treat Yourself Tuesdays." My brother texted at 6:40 p.m. "Happy birthday, Vi. Crazy week, love you." I drove 2.5 hours from Providence after my shift ended. I found her sitting at the kitchen table in the farmhouse, donuts going stale under a dish towel. The porch light the only thing burning in the whole house. The next afternoon, while I was raking leaves off her porch steps, a woman in a gray wool coat walked up the gravel drive and handed me a sealed envelope with my grandmother's handwriting across the flap. What was inside ended my family as I understood it. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories, where quiet people draw quiet lines, and the paperwork always tells the truth eventually. If you've ever had to protect someone the rest of the family stopped seeing, drop a comment and subscribe. You'll want to be here for the ending. The drive out to Millbrook takes you past the last gas station for 11 miles. Then straight orchard rows on both sides, apple trees my great-grandfather planted in the 1950s. Their branches bent low with the weight of a season nobody had picked yet. I pulled into the farmhouse driveway at 8:40 p.m., still in my work cardigan, a bouquet of grocery store daisies wilting on the passenger seat. The porch light was on. Every other window in the house was dark. Inside, the kitchen told the story before she said a word. 6 cider mugs set out on the table, a plate of donuts under a checked dish towel gone slightly hard at the edges, a candle, one candle, the number 81 carved into the wax by hand, the way she always did it herself with her paring knife. She was sitting at the head of the table in her canvas work jacket, hands wrapped around a cold mug of cider. "Marin." She looked up, and then frowned. "Is today Wednesday?" "It's Tuesday, Gran. Your birthday." "Oh." She touched the edge of the cake stand. "I made these for the co-op meeting." I lit the candle. I sang. She asked me to start over halfway through because she said she'd missed the beginning. We ate donuts standing at the counter, because neither of us wanted to dirty a plate for one candle's worth of celebration. At T10, I walked her up to bed. She weighed almost nothing under that canvas jacket. As I pulled the quilt to her chin, her hand shot out and closed around my wrist. Her eyes sharpened, the way a radio dial finds a station through static. "They think I don't know what they're doing," she whispered. I waited for more. She was already asleep. "Here is who we are, so you understand the shape of it. My grandmother, Vivian Ashford, has run Ashford Orchards outside Millbrook for over 40 years, 31 acres, a farm stand, a small cidery she built up herself after my grandfather passed. My father, Walter, is a commercial real estate broker 2 towns over, the kind of man who calls himself in transition between deals more often than not. My mother, Renata, does marketing for a boutique hotel group and refers to herself, unironically, as a brand. My brother Colin owns a hardscaping and landscape design company, Ellis Outdoor Living, and drives a truck that costs more than my yearly salary. And then there's me, paralegal at a 4-person elder law practice in Providence. I make $44,000 a year and I'm studying for the bar exam at night. My mother calls it Marin's little office job, usually while refilling her wine, but this farmhouse, this orchard, this was mine in every way that mattered and none that counted on paper. I learned to drive a stick shift in the equipment barn. Vivian taught me to read a lease sitting on the porch swing when I was 20, her cheaters pushed up on her nose, a red pen behind her ear. She co-signed my first apartment because my parents wouldn't. That night, restless, I got up for water around midnight. On the hallway bookshelf, tucked behind a framed photo of the whole family at Christmas, I found a business card, Gail Thornton, Thornton and Pierce Realty, with a note and pen on the back. Appraised value $910,000. Buyer ready to move fast. I put the card back exactly where I found it. My hands didn't shake. My stomach did. Wednesday morning, I scrubbed the kitchen while Vivian dozed in the front room with the radio on low. I wrapped the leftover donuts. I washed the 6 cider mugs and put 5 of them back in the cabinet, where they'd likely sit untouched. At 10:20, a car came up the gravel drive. A woman in her late 50s got out gray wool coat, leather folio under one arm, followed by a younger man carrying a small zippered case. "Marin Ellis?" she asked. "Yes. My name is Eleanor Voss. This is my associate, Marcus Reyes." She held out a sealed manila envelope, Vivian's name printed on the front tab in dark blue ink. "Your grandmother retained our office 14 months ago. She asked us to deliver this to you personally when the time came." "When the time came for what?" Eleanor glanced past me toward the house, her expression softening a degree. "Come see me at the office when you're ready. Don't discuss this with your parents first." She pressed a card into my palm and was back in the car before I could ask a second question. I stood on the porch holding an envelope heavier than it looked, maybe 35 pages. The seal was signed across the flap in Vivian's looping hand, the same hand that signed every birthday card I'd ever received. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "Who was that in the driveway?" "Don't sign anything, Marin." I turned the phone face down. I sat at the kitchen table, the same table, the cider mugs still drying on the rack, and broke the seal. Inside, a recorded deed, a trust instrument, a durable power of attorney, notarized witness pages, and a letter on medical letterhead dated 14 months back. Clipped to the front, a note on Vivian's stationery. "Marin, when they come for the orchard, open this. I love you. It has to be you. Not if." When? She had known. 14 months ago, before the forgetting got bad. Before she started calling me by my mother's name. Before the day she got lost walking to the mailbox at the end of her own driveway. She had prepared. Monday, I called out of work for the first time in 3 years. Something told me to stay. I found it taking the recycling out a realtor's combination lockbox, clipped to the propane tank behind the tool shed, tucked just out of sight of the main path. I knew exactly what it was, back inside. I dug through 3 weeks of unopened mail on the hall table. Buried under a seed catalog and a property tax notice, I found an off-market listing sheet on Thornton and Pierce letterhead. 31 acres, farmhouse, cidery structure. Listed at $910,000, nearly $100,000 under the 2 most recent comparable sales in the county. In the kitchen junk drawer. Worse, a purchase agreement, mostly filled in, unsigned. Buyer, Redwood Land Partners LLC. Cash offer, 28-day close. On the seller's signature line, someone had penciled V. Ashford in small block letters. Like a rehearsal, the seller's representative listed on the agreement. Colin Ellis, my brother. I sat on the floor and spread it all out: the lockbox, the listing sheet, the purchase agreement, a sticky note in my mother's handwriting. Target close. October 30th. 3 weeks away. I called my mother that evening. "Oh, Marin, that specific warmth she uses on hotel clients. How's Gran doing? We had the loveliest weekend at the lake. There's a lockbox on the propane tank, Mom." A pause. 2 seconds. 3. "Sweetheart, that's being handled. There's a purchase agreement in her kitchen drawer." "Marin." The warmth dropped to register. "This is a decision your father, your brother, and I have made together. We've been managing Gran's affairs for months. You don't need the details. Does she know the orchard is being sold?" "She knows what she needs to know." A pause. The clink of a glass. "Colin's business is in a difficult stretch. This solves it. It's the responsible thing. It's her land, Mom." "Marin, all the way to the basement now. Your grandmother has dementia. She got lost walking to her own mailbox last month. She is not the person who should be deciding what happens to a $900,000 property." A breath. "She won't remember the orchard by Christmas." I hung up. I picked up the folder and Eleanor Voss's card and held them side by side under the kitchen light. If you've ever watched a family calculate what an elder's memory is worth, stay with me. You're about to watch the paperwork answer back. Comment the roots hold if you're staying for the closing table, and subscribe so you don't miss it. Eleanor Voss's office sat above a bakery on the Millbrook Town Common. I called at 7:45 a.m. Her receptionist put me through inside a minute, which tells you they were already expecting the call. "Your grandmother came to us 14 months ago," Eleanor said, pouring tea neither of us would finish. She'd had an episode. Got turned around driving home from the co-op, ended up on the wrong side of the county. A neighbor brought her back. She called our office the next morning. Scared of what? Of exactly what's happening right now. Eleanor folded her hands. She told me, verbatim, my son will do whatever Renata tells him, and Renata will sell this orchard the day I can't stop her. She wanted to act while she still had the standing to. Eleanor walked me through the architecture. Piece by piece. One irrevocable living trust. Vivian had transferred the farmhouse, the orchard acreage, and the cidery structure into the Vivian Ashford Revocable Living Trust, recorded with the county clerk 14 months prior. She was trustee while she had capacity. I was named successor trustee, to a durable power of attorney naming me as her agent for financial and healthcare decisions. Drafted to survive incapacity rather than end with it. 3. A capacity letter from Dr. Priyanandan, Vivian's physician, dated the same day, stating plainly that Vivian understood the nature and consequence of every document she signed. The orchard isn't hers to sell as an individual anymore, Eleanor said. It belongs to the trust. Only the trustee can authorize a sale, and once Vivian is determined to lack capacity, that authority passes to you. She was already showing signs 3 weeks ago. Wandering, repeating things. Then the successor provisions are very likely already active. Eleanor leaned forward. There's something else. If your family had her sign anything recently, a new power of attorney, a listing authorization while she lacked capacity, it may not hold up at all. I drove back to the farmhouse that evening. Through the front window, Vivian sat in her armchair, radio murmuring, reading glasses folded in her lap. I let myself in with the spare key she'd given me at 17, the one she never gave my parents. Gran. She looked up. 3 seconds. 4. Her eyes were clear, not the soft fog of most days, but clear like water over stone. You went to see Eleanor, she said. You remember her? I remember. I was scared. And I went to a lawyer, and I told her what your mother would do. She turned her glasses over in her hands. Did I get it right? You got it exactly right, Gran. Good. She reached for the glasses, then forgot why. They've been walking people through the barn on Thursdays, when the aide is here. I hear car doors. Strangers in my cidery. I know. Your father won't look at me when he visits anymore. She pressed her lips together. Colin brought papers. I don't remember what I signed. I took her hand. It doesn't matter what you signed. You already took care of it. Her grip tightened, thin but deliberate. I'm not gone yet, Marin. My brother showed up Wednesday without knocking. The way he'd walked into every room his whole life like it owed him applause. Hey, Mare. He kissed the top of my head, smelling like cedar and new truck leather, and went straight for the fridge. Checking in on Vi. Sweet of you. I know about the listing, Colin. He paused, beer halfway to his mouth. 1 beat. Then the smile shifted gears, warmth into negotiation. It's not what you think. Look, the business is in a rough stretch. I've got a $680,000 balloon payment due in 7 weeks. I miss it. The bank takes every project I've got left. So you're selling Gran's orchard. I'm helping the family manage an asset she can't manage herself anymore. He set the can down. Everybody wins, Mare. Mom and Dad, stop stressing. I keep the business, everybody except Gran. She doesn't know what day it is, Colin. She knows there are strangers walking through her cidery. His jaw tightened. It's basically already sold. Closing set. He left the empty can on the counter and walked out without rinsing it. That night, in the bottom drawer of the hallway credenza, behind a stack of seed catalogs, I found what they'd actually had her sign. A power of attorney dated 3 months prior, naming my father as her agent for all financial and property matters. Stapled to it, a listing authorization naming Colin as seller's representative. Dated the same day, I laid it beside the originals from Eleanor's folder, the trust documents from 14 months ago, strong pen pressure. Clean loops, every letter connecting to the next. This was the hand that wrote grocery lists in cursive and signed my college acceptance card in fountain pen. The newer power of attorney, trembling lines. The letters barely rising off the baseline. Gaps where the pen had lifted mid-stroke. Not the hand of a woman who understood what she was signing. The hand of a woman who'd been shown where to press down. I checked the date against my phone calendar. My stomach dropped. That was the same week Vivian had been taken to urgent care after a fall in the barn. My mother's text at the time, "Vi took a little spill. Nothing serious. Resting now." I hadn't thought twice. The discharge note, buried in the mail pile, read, "Patient intermittently disoriented. Recommend neurological follow-up." They had her sign away control of a $900,000 property during the same week she'd been hospitalized for confusion. I photographed everything and called Eleanor. Eleanor came to the farmhouse on Friday, not her office. "It matters that we do this at her kitchen table," she said. And once I saw the documents lined up on that scarred maple surface, I understood why. 1. The recorded trust deed filed with the county clerk 14 months ago. Public record. The orchard belonged to the trust. 2. The durable power of attorney naming me notarized witnessed. Currently in effect. 3. Dr. Nandan's capacity letter. Mrs. Ashford demonstrates full understanding of the nature and consequences of the instruments she is executing. She is oriented to time, place, and person. 4. The newer power of attorney naming my father shaking signature. No capacity evaluation, no independent witness. Signed the same week as a documented hospital visit for confusion. 5. The listing agreement naming Colin as seller's representative, Gail Thornton as agent, an off-market price nearly 6 figures under comparable value. The orchard has been in the trust for over a year, Eleanor said. Your grandmother cannot sell it as an individual. And the newer power of attorney, even setting aside the medical timing, doesn't grant authority over trust assets. This sale cannot close. It was never theirs to sell. She won't remember the orchard by Christmas. My mother's voice, looping in my head, but Vivian had remembered. Before any of them, we built a plan, quiet. Built on paper, not anger. Step 1. A current capacity evaluation from Dr. Nandan, formal enough to hold up if challenged. I called Monday morning. 11 minutes on hold. When the receptionist came back, her voice had that careful, rehearsed calm I recognized from my own job, the tone people use right before bad news. "I'm sorry, Miss Ellis. We've received a request restricting access to Mrs. Ashford's records to a designated contact. Restricted by whom? I can't disclose that. The request came in about 6 weeks ago. Who's a designated contact?" A pause. "Walter Ellis, my father. They'd lock me out. If you've ever been shut out of protecting someone you love because someone else got there first with a signature comment, locked out, and stay with me. It gets worse before the paperwork wins. Subscribe so you catch the closing." Eleanor filed a HIPAA authorization under my durable power of attorney, which predated theirs. 2 days later, I had the records, and Dr. Nandan agreed to a fresh evaluation. The system is slow, I told myself, but it works. My mother came by that Thursday evening with a brochure for Cedarview assisted living, private rooms, a garden, a dining hall with linen napkins and the photos. She smoothed it flat on the same table where Eleanor and I had laid out 5 documents 3 days before. "It's a beautiful facility, Marin. If we transition her before Thanksgiving, we can have the orchard staged and listed by December. You're staging it for a buyer you already have." Her expression flickered the briefest crack. "You've always been sentimental about this land. Your brother's business is in real trouble. This family needs to pull together." Her voice caught. Real tears, performed tears. I genuinely couldn't tell anymore. And after 31 years I'd stopped trying to. "The papers are already at the title company. Closing is October 30th. This is happening." She left the brochure on the table. I almost let it happen that night. It would have been so much easier. But if you've ever watched a family decide an elder's worth expires with her memory, you already know why I didn't. The calls started the next day. My father's cousin first, careful and concerned. "Marin, your mother says you're trying to take control of Grant's finances." She used the word manipulating. Then a woman from Vivian's garden club. Then Colin's business partner. Same script, different mouths. Marin's overstepping. Marin's emotional. Marin doesn't understand the money. My mother had shaped the story before I ever opened my mouth. I didn't argue back. I didn't post anything. Eleanor had told me, the documents speak. You don't have to. But on the sixth night, close to 9, my phone rang once more. Vivian's younger sister, and 83, sharp as ever, 2 counties over. Marin, I don't believe a word Renata's telling people, and I'll tell you why. Your grandmother called me last September, said she'd been to see a lawyer, said she was putting the orchard in order while she still could, said if anything happened, back you up. I'm backing you up, she said. Whatever you need. Eleanor and I confirmed the details. Heritage Title Services, October 30th, 2:00 p.m., conference room. The escrow officer, Patricia Nolan, 20 years in the business, thorough by the book. The buyer, Redwood Land Partners, a regional firm that bought undervalued rural acreage and subdivided it. Their representative, a man named Victor Kane. Eleanor made one more off-record call and came back with something that made her pause. Patricia flagged the file 3 weeks ago during the title search. Noted the property was held in a trust, called Gail Thornton for clarification. Thornton sent over a signed statement claiming the trust had been dissolved and the property reconveyed to Vivian individually. Patricia accepted it provisionally but noted no recorded reconveyance deed existed anywhere. Gail Thornton had lied to the title company. The trust had never been dissolved. The deed was still recorded, still public, still standing. The wholesale was already balanced on cracked ice, and all it needed was someone to set the original document on the table. I filed a report with the state's Adult Protective Services Division that same afternoon, sitting in my car outside the town hall. The intake worker was patient and completely unsurprised by any of it. She'd heard this architecture before, different names every time. She flagged the file as time-sensitive given the closing date. 2 days later, a voicemail from Eleanor. Something interesting. APS mentioned informally that yours isn't the first report on this situation. There was an anonymous complaint filed about 6 weeks ago. No contact info, so they never followed up. But the file exists. 6 weeks ago. The same week they'd had Vivian sign the fraudulent power of attorney. Someone else had seen it happening. Someone who hadn't left a name, but had cared enough to call. My father came alone on day 4, in the old work truck instead of his usual sedan, the one nobody would notice in the driveway. He sat in the cab a long time before he came in through the back door, the way he had since he was a boy. She used to sing in this kitchen, he said, barely above a whisper, looking at the window over the sink. Every Sunday morning. I know. He sat at the table, hands flat on the wood, and I watched them shake. I didn't want this. Colon's in over his head. Your mother says the orchard's the only way. His voice cracked a hairline fracture. You could still stop this, Dad. He looked at me for one long, trembling second. Then his phone buzzed. My mother's name on the screen. He stood. I should go. He didn't say goodbye to his mother on the way out. Day 5. I bought a small cake from the bakery on the common, vanilla, 1 candle, because 81 seemed like a fire hazard and I wanted to make her laugh. We ate with forks this time. She told me about planting the first row of Honeycrisp trees the year my father was born, about the maple tables, every scratch being a harvest supper she'd won. Then she put her fork down. Don't let them take the trees, she said. Quiet. Fierce. I won't. Gran. The orchard stays. The night before the closing. She was having a good hour, not a good day. Those were rare now. But a good hour working a word search with a ballpoint pen. No pencil. Because pencils, she always said, were for people who didn't trust themselves. Tomorrow's a big day, Gran. She didn't look up. Legal instrument of protection. 5 letters. Trust. Smarty pants. She set the puzzle down and reached into her cardigan pocket for her glasses case, the leather one with the brass clasp she'd carried since I was small. She opened it and handed me a folded slip of paper. Her handwriting, shaky but legible, recent, for Marin, the keeper of the trees, below it. Her signature, not the strong hand from 14 months ago, not the collapsed one from the fraudulent paper, something in between, trembling, but intentional. Written by a woman who knew she was fading and wanted to leave one more mark while she still could. I'm not gone yet, she said. 9 days. 1 folder, and a woman who left instructions before the fog got there first. If this is landing somewhere personal, type keeper of the trees and stay with me for the closing. This is where the paperwork does the talking. Heritage Title Services sat in a converted mill building on the edge of the common. I parked across the street at 1:45. Eleanor pulled in 5 minutes later. Marcus Reyes was already inside. The conference room held 10 chairs, a water pitcher, a printer humming in the corner. Patricia Nolan stood at the head of the table arranging documents into neat stacks. She looked up, saw Eleanor, and paused half a second, the pause of someone who recognizes a name. Miss Voss, I don't have your firm listed on this transaction. I represent the Vivian Ashford Revocable Living Trust. Eleanor said, we have documents relevant to this closing. The door opened behind us. My mother first, in a cream blazer, smile already fixed in place, the hostess arriving at her own party. Colin behind her, jaw set, portfolio under one arm. My father trailing, gray-faced, staring at the floor. Then Gail Thornton, blazer and heels, closing documents fanned in one hand. Last, Victor Kane, navy suit, unreadable. My mother saw me. Her smile flickered but held. Marin, what are you doing here? Taking a seat. I sat, placed a manila folder on the table in front of me and waited. The room went quiet. The printer stopped humming. Eleanor laid 3 documents on the table, one at a time, squared and centered. First, a certified copy of the recorded trust deed, filed 14 months ago. It transfers the property at Ashford Orchards into the Vivian Ashford Revocable Living Trust. Miss Ellis is the successor trustee. My mother's smile fell in stages, like a building losing floors. Second, the durable power of attorney naming Miss Ellis, executed the same day, notarized. Currently in effect, we have a more recent power of attorney that supersedes Colin started. Third, Eleanor set down the physician's letter, a capacity evaluation from Dr. Nandan, confirming Vivian had full capacity when she signed these instruments. I also have Dr. Nandan's current evaluation, completed last week, confirming Vivian now lacks capacity, meaning any documents signed after her decline, including the power of attorney your family obtained during a documented hospitalization for confusion, were signed without the legal competence required to make them binding. Patricia Nolan picked up the trust deed, read it, compared it against her own title file, looked at Gail Thornton. Miss Thornton, you told me this trust had been dissolved. Gail went pale. I was told the trust was never dissolved, Eleanor said. The deed confirms it. This property belongs to the trust. The sale cannot proceed. Patricia set the papers down, squared her shoulders, and said the 5 words that ended it. I cannot close this transaction. Victor Kane closed his folio without a word. Gail stared at the table. Colin's knuckles went white on the armrests. My mother looked at me like I'd pulled the ground out from under her feet. This is ridiculous, she said, standing, palms flat on the table. Marin is a paralegal. She has no authority. My husband is her son, and he has a signed power of attorney signed the same week your mother-in-law was hospitalized for confusion, Eleanor said, even with no capacity evaluation and no authority over trust assets in any case. You can do this. Colin was on his feet now, voice raw, not performing. I have a $680,000 payment due in 6 weeks, Mr. Ellis. Your financial obligations are in this office's concern. Patricia said, this is my grandmother's orchard. The trust's orchard, Eleanor corrected. Administered by the trustee your grandmother chose. She's sitting at this table. Colin turned on me. You're going to destroy this family. I kept my voice at the volume I'd practiced. You tried to sell a woman's orchard while she sat alone eating birthday donuts nobody showed up for. You had her sign documents during a hospital stay. Your realtor lied to the title company. And I'm the one destroying the family? My mother was crying now, loud, and I genuinely couldn't tell anymore whether it was for Vivian or for herself. After everything I've done, my father hadn't spoken. He stared at the trust deed, at his mother's signature, doing the math in real time. She'd gone around him. She'd looked at her only son and decided he wasn't the one who'd hold the line. Victor Kane stood. I think we're done here. He walked out. Gail was already gathering her folder, avoiding every eye in the room. For the record, Eleanor said into the quiet. An adult protective services investigation into the financial exploitation of Vivian Ashford is active. The fraudulent power of attorney will be formally challenged. Any further attempt to sell or encumber trust property without the trustee's authorization will be treated as a legal matter. My mother's tears stopped. Something harder moved in underneath them. You'll regret this. When Colin loses the company, when this family falls apart, you'll remember you did this. I stood, picked up the folder, and looked at her, the cream blazer, the tears she'd learned to deploy like weather. You don't get to decide what she's worth, I said. I turned to Patricia Nolan. Thank you for your time. I'll be documenting this closing as void, she said. You'll have confirmation by email. I walked out. The October air hit my face, cold and clean, and I stood on the sidewalk a full 10 seconds before I remembered to breathe. Aftermath: Colin's balloon payment came due 6 weeks later. Right on schedule. He missed it. The bank foreclosed on 2 of his remaining projects. Ellis Outdoor Living filed for bankruptcy protection in the new year. He sold the truck. He never called to apologize. My mother's standing around Millbrook eroded slowly, the way it does in small towns, and talked. Patricia's file existed. People put it together. She and my father sold their house and moved into a condo 2 towns over by spring. My father emailed me once in March. 3 sentences. I should have done more. I know that now. I'm sorry. I read it twice. I didn't answer. Some apologies are just a record of what someone always knew they should have said. Adult Protective Services substantiated the complaint. Over the following months, through hearings nobody in my family contested, the fraudulent power of attorney was formally voided, and the court confirmed me as Vivian's permanent trustee and guardian. I deferred the bar exam. I moved into the farmhouse's spare room, the one with the window seat I'd claimed since I was 9, and I became the person who made sure Vivian ate dinner, took her medication, and sat on the porch in the afternoons while the orchard light came gold through the branches. It wasn't the career path I'd planned. It was the right one. On a Tuesday in April, I baked a cake. Nothing fancy. Vanilla. 1 candle. I set it on the maple table. Whose birthday? She asked. Nobody's. It's Tuesday. We're having cake because it's Tuesday. She took a bite. Closed her eyes. This is my recipe, she said. Don't change it. We ate with the afternoon light stripping across the floor. The orchard held. A person's worth doesn't expire when their memory does, and the quietest love in a family is sometimes the only one still keeping watch. That's my story. 1 empty birthday table, 1 sealed envelope, and a grandmother who remembered first. If this reminded you to check on someone's directive today, do it. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.